Recently, I imported 4 artifacts into Unreal Engine. I have the artifacts in their own separate folders. For example, in the vessel file, I have the static mesh, the texture file, and the material file. I will show you my workflow in importing these artifacts. Once again, I'm going to create a new folder. Well, I'm going to call this artifacts. And within this folder, I'm going to do another folder called inscription. I have the same folder layout in my file explorer for artifacts and an inscription. I'm going to drag the taildown inscription OBJ into Unreal Engine. For the import options, the only thing I'm going to change is change the import uniform scale it down to 5. And for the material, I'm going to click on Do Not Create Material. Click Import All. Now that is imported, let's drop it into the world. We can see there are some issues with this U asset. For one, the rotation is off. It should be set as this final model here. And secondly, the pivot is not set to the center of the U asset. It is offset over here. For the rotation, we can fix that ourselves. Click here to adjust the rotation. Here on the right under transform, let's keep note of our final rotations. We have -97 for X, 31 for Y, 126.72 for Z. To fix the pivot to put on the center, we have to use MeshLab, which is another program to edit meshes. Inside MeshLab, let's do the same thing as in Unreal Engine. Just drag the OBJ file from File Explorer into MeshLab. The mesh is now loaded into the scene. If we go to Render and click on Show Axes, you can see that the axis is offset from the mesh. To put the axis in the center of the mesh, go to Filters, Normals, Curvatures, and Orientation, and go down to Transform, Translate Center, Set Origin. This window will pop up. In the drop-down menu next to Transformation, select Center on Scene, V-Box, and click Apply. And now the axis is in the center of the mesh. Go to File, and Export Mesh As. I'm just going to add pivot to the name so I know this one is the one with the correct pivot, and click Save. Let's return to Unreal Engine. Remove the U asset from the level. Delete this U asset from the U asset folder as well. Now import the OBJ again. This time in import options, go down to import rotation, enter the rotation we noted earlier. For X, it was negative 97.90.33. For Y, it was 31.02944. And for Z, it was 126.72. And click Import All. Now let's drop this into our work. The pivot is now in the center and the U-asset is in the correct orientation. Sometimes Unreal may not import the texture file, and this will not create the material file for this static mesh. Go back to File Explorer, and with the same thing as the OBJ, simply drag the texture file into the content browser. The texture file is now imported. We will now have to create a material U-asset for this texture. Right-click on the texture and click on Create Material. Click Enter, and now the material file will be created. We can drag this material U-asset into the material slot on the right with the inscription U-asset. To permanently set this material to the U-asset, double-click the inscription asset to open a new window. Now drag the material U-asset to element 0 on the right here, and click Save. This workflow is now completed on how to import 3D laser scan artifacts into Unreal Engine for people to interact with in the CyberArk warehouse. Thank you for watching this tutorial.